The Astros have been full of surprises in 2013, and two of the biggest have been Brandon Barnes and Jordan Lyles. Brandon's flair for the dramatic helped to kickstart the Astros turnaround. And Jordan's dominant pitching has made the Astros starting rotation one of baseball's best for over a month. The future looks bright in Houston, and fans everywhere are saying yes to Astros baseball. Catch it next on Comcast Sportsnet. Live from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, Comcast Sportsnet brings you Houston Astros baseball. Today it's Game 2 of this three-game weekend series. It's the Houston Astros versus the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Good afternoon, Bill Brown and Alan Ashby. The Angels won last night 4-2. The Astros have the lead in the season series, 7-4, and it goes to Jordan Lyles today against the right-hander Joe Blanton. Ash?
Jordan Lyles obviously trying to pick one up after a rough one in Chicago. In Chicago at Wrigley Field, the defense was not kind to Jordan Lyles, so hopefully that aspect of the game can be a bit stronger here today.
We saw a couple of great catches in the outfield last night from Brandon Barnes, who's really seizing control of that center field position now.
I think he's been a big factor for this ball club, if I'm not mistaken. Brandon Barnes, in the first quarter of the season, wasn't really a big player. The team went 10-30, but he made this final catch in Game 41 in Detroit. The Astros picked up that win. They also picked up things. They've gone 20-20 in the last 40 games. It was also Brandon Barnes with a key game-winning walk-off winner right here against the Rockies during that second 40 games of the season. Brandon Barnes, we saw last night, as you talk about Brownie, the great defense by Brandon. He's been a big part there. And when you look at what the team has done, it's been really uncanny. In the first quarter, they actually hit better. They scored more runs per game, but the pitching just entirely different. Here the ERA at 3.60 in the second quarter. The starters have been off the charts at 3.30, and the home runs allowed way down. It's been a very different looking ball club. If the offense can pick up, you would like to think they can really get it going here as they enter the third quarter of the season starting tomorrow.
Coming up, Jordan Lyles has given opponents fits, especially they're having trouble with his curve. We go up to the train tracks, and Julia Morales has more in just a moment.
set for Game 2 between the Angels and Astros from here at Minute Maid Park. Only today I'm a few feet higher than I am usually. 90 feet to be exact above the playing surface. I am inside the train. This is Bobby Dynamite with me, who acts as the conductor, gets the fans going during the game. You know you've seen him. But he's also celebrating his 1,000th game up here. That's a lot of games, Bobby. What does it mean to you?
It means a lot because, I grew up here in Houston, and I'm a lifelong Astros fan. I remember going to games in the Dome and, hardly anybody being there, and I'd be the loudest person in the ballpark. So all these years later, here we are at Minute Maid Park and, getting to celebrate with the team and getting to, run the train during the home runs. It's more than a dream come true because when I was a kid, this wasn't around here. And so I'm just lucky to be a big kid to play with a big train here for the Astros.
Wow, you have a great job and scared of heights. I don't know how you do it up here because it's pretty high. Well, hopefully Bobby sees some action from the Astros tonight up here. I know Jordan Lyles would be excited too if the Astros could get the balls up here near the train as he is going tonight. And he's trying to bounce back from a tough start in Chicago, but fortunately for him, he is at home where he's been very good in his last 3 starts. He's 2-0 with a 1.35 ERA, and he has not allowed more than 1 home run in his last 21 starts here. That's the longest streak among American League pitchers. The Astros are hoping to see more of that trend tonight as they face the Angels, and I got to get down from here. I got to thank Bobby for letting me join you up here. But the Astros and Angels are getting started. Like I said, first pitch and lineups coming up after the break.
Is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. And by your local Toyota dealer. Toyota, let's go places. And let's go inside Minute Maid Park for Game 2 of a 3-game series. The Astros 1-2 so far in this homestand. They're playing the Angels now for the 12th time this year. The Astros are 7-4 in the first 11 against the Angels from Anaheim. And Mike Scioscia will trot out this starting lineup for the Angels, who are 37 and 43, and they are 10 games off the lead pace being set by Texas. It's Eric Ibar leading it off today at shortstop. Mike Trout's in left field with Albert Pujols, a designated hitter, batting third. The cleanup man is first baseman Mark Trumbo. He's followed by second baseman Howie Kendrick, right fielder Josh Hamilton, third baseman Alberto Callaspo, catcher Chris Iannetta, and center fielder Peter Borges.
22-year-old right-hander Jordan Lyles goes for the Stros today, 4-2 on the year, 3.68 the ERA. He had been pitching great baseball until his most recent start, that at Wrigley against the Cubs. Worked 5 innings in that, allowing 10 hits and 8 runs. 5 of those earned. The defense was really horrible that day, and Jordan Lyles would like to get it turned back around here this afternoon.
And even though those numbers were ugly, as you mentioned, he got very little defensive support, but he remained stoic throughout that game. He did not slump his shoulders and walk around the mound, rub up the baseball, and wonder why, oh why, is this happening to me? He was very professional about it, Ash.
That's exactly what happened that day. I was probably more impressed with the way he handled the problems behind him than maybe if he had pitched a great game.
That's an excellent thought. And there's strike one to Eric Ibar, leading it off at 282. He has 3 homers. He has 29 runs batted in. Last night, he batted in the number 9 spot and played shortstop, and he went 2 for 3 and drove in a couple in that 9th inning rally as the Angels won it 4-2. That's a strike, and it's 0-2. We mentioned earlier, and you heard it from Julia, the curveball has been a very effective weapon for Jordan. Fastball, though, is a staple for him as well, and he can really set up that off-speed and breaking stuff with his fastball. Bounces that one, and it's 1-2. And that's the other thing. He knows when to bounce that curveball, and on an 0-2 count, that's a good time to do it. But Ibar was not biting that time.
On the 0-1, he brought the curveball that he gets the called strike on right through the plate, and then dives it in the dirt, trying to get the strikeout.
Ibar's hit 307 since May 19th. It's tops among major league shortstops in that period of time. It's a 2-ball, 2-strike count to Ibar. Mike Scioscia's Angels have done better. They've won 10 of their last 15 after just an awful start to the season. They had a miserable month of April, and 3-time World Series champion in 81 and 88 as a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and then skippering this club, the Angels in 02. On the right side, Altuve tracks it down, throws. That's a difficult play, and he takes care of it for out number 1. He was moving toward the right field corner and had to throw back in the other direction.
Nice to see a little good D behind Jordan Lyles here on the first play of the game. Defensively for the Astros, Jason Castro behind the plate. Around the infield, right to left, Brett Wallace, Jose Altuve. Jake Elmore gets the start at short, and Matt Dominguez at third. In the outfield, Brandon Barnes with J.D. Martinez in right and Chris Carter in left.
And it's Mike Trout. What a threat he is. Starting the day at 316 with 13 homers, 52 runs batted in, and a 938 OPS. Big cut there, and Trout fouls it for strike 1.
And when he gets on base, the problems really begin.
That's for sure.
Great speed. Peter Borges, another member of these Angels with just turn-on speed.
Had an RBI single and 2 walks last night. It's 1-1 to Trout. Trout just brings the whole package to the field. And he has 38 hits this month. That's tied for the major league lead. 1 and 2. 13 homers, 20 steals, 24 doubles. He swung over the top of that breaking ball.
That curveball is a put-away pitch.
Both these teams have June records of 12 wins and 13 losses. Angels have won 4 in a row now. In the dirt for ball 2. They swept the Detroit Tigers at Comerica Park. They hadn't done that in a 3-game series since the 02 season, and they swept their entire season series of 6 games from Detroit. But before going to Detroit, they were swept at home by Pittsburgh. Angels are 13 and 20 against the American League West. Trout's not biting, and it's 3-2. Lyles has walked only 17 in 64 innings. And tops that one foul. Trout, the first-round pick of the Angels in 09, the 25th player drafted that year. He's from Vineland, New Jersey. His father, Jeff, played professional baseball in the Minnesota Twins system.
Isn't that amazing that 24 teams could have missed on this talent?
Yes, it really is. It's hard to believe. Chop to the left side. There's Elmore with a high throw to Wallace, safe at first. And Trout with his speed forces misplays like that. Elmore was hurrying. The throw sailed high. Wallace came up off the bag, and by the time he landed on it, Trout was safe at first.
Well, for Jordan Lyles, he does get a good play on out number 1, and then a throw gets away. And that's how a big inning can get started, especially when you now have that speed of Trout on base.
That's an error on Elmore. The Astros committed 2 errors last night, leading to 2 unearned runs in their 4-2 loss. They've now made 64 errors. They've allowed 42 unearned runs. 252 for Pujols, 13 long balls. He's driven in 49. That's ball 1. Pujols last night was at DH and was 0 for 4 in that game. His career numbers: .308 batting average against Houston pitching, 42 homers, 115 runs batted in. Well known to Astros fans. Trout draws the throw. Trout, with 20 steals in 23 attempts, will draw some attention. And especially now, the thought might be to steal a base. With Pujols, a distinct ground ball double play threat at the plate. Albert not running well this year, playing injured, foot problem, and coming back from knee surgery. He's bounced into 16 double plays. Now it's 2 balls, no strikes. In Lyles' career, he is 2-0 against the Angels with a 4.22 ERA and a couple of starts. Jordan won a game at Anaheim back on June 2nd, allowing 2 runs in 5 2/3 innings.
He was in the process at the time of stringing together 6 consecutive outstanding starts, and that again marred by the recent start in Chicago against the Cubs. Just one of those afternoons you want to forget.
Jordan beat the Angels here back on May 7th, giving up 3 runs in 5 innings. Those 3 runs came on a first-inning homer by Mark Trumbo. 3-0 pitch is cracked foul. Pujols with that aggressive approach rammed it outside the third base line. Albert, of course, ranks up there among the guys who are active, very high on many of the offensive lists. He has 488 home runs, and that in fact is 28th on the all-time Major League home run list. 5 behind Lou Gehrig and Fred McGriff. He takes ball 4, and there are 2 men on for Mark Trumbo with 1 out. Trumbo in last night's game was 1 for 4. He singled and scored in the 9th inning. 248 for Mark, 17 homers. He's driven in 50. He's a power threat. Castro giving signs to the infielder. When Trumbo got that hit last night in the final at bat, that snapped an 0 for 10 skid for him. He has only 7 hits in his last 51 at bats, 137 over that stretch. He's 2 for 6 with 2 homers off Lyles. Lyles missing, and it's ball 1. Astros starting pitchers have been the biggest part of this team's turnaround, with an ERA of 3.30 in the last 40 games, and the team has gone 20-20 in those 40 games. Justin Maxwell not in the lineup today. Bo Porter wants to give him 1 more day of rest. It comes into the zone, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Home plate umpire Lance Barksdale rings it up. Bo Porter was saying Justin is fine. He did play in last night's game, coming in to pinch run in the 8th inning and play right field. But the Astros are going to be facing 3 consecutive left-handed starting pitchers, and he wanted to wait 1 more day and then get Justin in for that stretch. Bounce slowly to third. Dominguez comes over. No double play possibility. He takes the one out at first. That's 2 away now, and Howie Kendrick will bat.
You can see in this inning, though no runs are on the board at this point, what one error can do to set up a tough inning for a pitcher.
You bet. Trout at third, Pujols at second for Kendrick now. Kendrick has 32 hits in the month of June. That's tied for 6th in the American League, up to 313 with 8 homers. He's driven in 37. Kendrick last night was 0 for 4 with a couple of punch outs. That's an unusual night for him. He is a very good hitter. Howie's 28 years old. He's from Jacksonville, Florida. 10th round pick in 02. Grounded out to Altuve. Over to Wallace. Lyles pitches around the error. It's no runs, no hits, 1 error, 2 men left, no score. First against right-hander Joe Blanton. And here's the lineup card for Bo Porter. Jake Elmore, shortstop, leadoff. Jose Altuve, number 2 at second base. Jason Castro, the catcher. Chris Carter in left. J.D. Martinez in right. Brett Wallace at first. Matt Dominguez at third. Mark Krause, the designated hitter today. Brandon Barnes batting 9th in center field.
Right-hander veteran, 32 years of age. Joe Blanton takes to the hill for the Angels. 1-10 on the year. 5.26 the ERA. The Angels are 2-13 in his 15 starts on the year. Opposition hitting .316.
Tap to third base, in tight Callaspo, and he gets Elmore. 1 pitch, 1 out for Blanton.
That defense for the Angels behind Blanton. Doing the catching this afternoon, Chris Iannetta. Around the infield, Mark Trumbull, Howie Kendrick, Eric Ibar, and Alberto Callaspo in the outfield. Peter Borges with the speed in center field, flanked by Josh Hamilton, and more speed, Mike Trout in left.
At Minute Maid Park, the Astros have won 16 and lost 27. Jose Altuve at 296 has 3 homers. He's driven in 27. He's on an 8-game hitting streak. Looking at strike 1 from Joe Blanton. Blanton has a career ERA against Houston of 2.74 with 2 wins and 2 losses. It's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. His fastball has been much better in June, but for the season, the batting average against his fastball is a robust .380. Altuve falls behind 1-2.
You would think that would leave him inclined to stay away from that heater, but he's pumping it here in the first inning.
Yeah. Been a better pitch for him recently, so that number is for the season. And not indicative of his recent work. Off the plate, 2-2. So you're a guy who worked with some fellows who may have had that similar plight as Joe Blanton.
And I think, Brownie, it probably went as you are laying it out there. It comes and goes. And some guys are just going to give up higher numbers than others, no doubt about that. But when you've got a guy who tends to have a lot of problems in terms of allowing hits on the fastball or any given pitch, I did have a tendency to want to stay away from that pitch except for when it was a non-fastball count.
Okay.
At that point, that pitch becomes a lot livelier.
So maybe pitch backwards more?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
He gets a strike on Altuve, and that's out number 2.
Meaning that you're willing to throw a fastball in what typically would be breaking ball counts. It's a bit of a hanger that Altuve somehow misses.
Two outs for Blanton, and Jason Castro settles in. Jason had 273 with 11 homers, has 27 runs batted in. He hit a bomb last night into the Astros bullpen, 1 for 3 with a walk. His numbers stack up very well when voters for the American League All-Star team are looking at catchers. There's strike 1.
What do you think? I'm sorry, Brownie. I was going to ask you, what do you think in terms of the Astros pitching staff and the All-Star game? You see Bud Norris or anybody likely to make that club?
I don't know. I haven't really sat down and looked at all the pitchers in the league and tried to put together a staff yet. Have you?
I have not. I'm trying to look at it realistically. Who deserves an All-Star bid? And I think Bud Norris has pitched that way. I think much of this season Jordan Lyles has. I don't know that a veteran like Jose Veras with his saves could get a shot. I don't think the numbers really stack in that direction. But clearly one guy has to make the club. And I would say of the position players, Jason Castro is the most deserving.
In the air, and third baseman is waiting for it, Callaspo. For a Joe Blanton, 1-2-3 first, scoreless after 1.
For AT&T tweet of the game, it's from the Houston Astros. They say, those Brandon Barnes catches you're all tweeting about, yeah, they were that good. Brandon Barnes with not one but 2 fantastic catches in last night's game, one that took him all the way to the wall, and then a diving grab later in that same inning. He was top play, web gem, you name it, worthy. Last night, you probably see him on Astros bases loaded as well in top play there. And Mike Trout, another center fielder, had nice things to say about him. He's been known to make a nice grab or two. He said, Brandon Barnes is an exciting center fielder. He makes plays. He's got good speed, Brownie.
The Flying Walendas are calling also, Julia. No score after 1. Josh Hamilton leads it off in inning number 2. tap foul. There's strike one.
Wonder how Mike Trout would label his speed.
Yeah.
If Brandon Barnes has good speed, is Mike Trout going to drop on himself great speed?
Well, if he's being honest,
I would say so.
220 for Hamilton, 10 homers, 28 runs batted in. He may not prefer to be boastful, but it would be accurate to say he has great speed. Hamilton takes that sailor outside, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Hamilton had 2 hits, and he was hit by a pitch last night and scored a run in that game. Double and a single for Josh. So he has 7 hits now in his last 16 at bats. Been streaky. Strike there, and it's 1-2 to Josh, who's driven in 10 runs in his last 14 games. And a foul ball just keeps Hamilton alive. You know, we've been talking for weeks now about this turnaround that started after the Astros were 10-30. Now they've gone 20-20. And that's since the 15th of May. Well, since May 17th, Jordan Lyles has been a big part of that. His ERA has been 2.36, third best in the American League since May 17th. In tight, and it's 2-2. Special day for Bo Porter and his foundation, bringing kids out to the ballpark today as well. He had a group of he didn't know how many there were. They were in that room across from the Astros clubhouse. Looked like about 50 of them. The Bo Porter Self SELF Foundation. Well, it says here on the note 35 kids ages 9 through 12 from the Spring Spirit Baseball organization here today, and he spoke to them. They were on the field for BP. There's a liner to left field, headed for the wall, and one hops, and then it kicks over toward the corner, and Hamilton will get to second base. Carter had to track it down further toward that left field corner as it took a left turn after Hamilton hit the wall. So here's Bo with that Self Foundation, and he's taking disadvantaged, underprivileged kids, bringing them out to ball games. And there's a lot that goes beyond baseball in this training here. There's a religious aspect to it. You see Justin Maxwell talking to them, and then there you see it on that T-shirt. The educational aspect is there as well. They've brought in people to counsel them on what it takes to get a college scholarship and things of that nature. And Bo's been doing this for a long time, but his foundation dates back to last July. Now Alberto Callaspo grounds, and the runner will head for third. Altuve on over to first as Callaspo advances Hamilton on out number 1. Hamilton clapping his hands because Callaspo performed his job well, getting the runner to third, where Dino Ebel is the coach with out number 1. Now Chris Iannetta with the infield in. Iannetta did not start the game last night. He came in late, and Conger was the starter. Iannetta had 213 with 5 homers, has driven in 24. Peter Borges on deck. And the curveball is hit foul. There's strike 1 to Iannetta.
The curveball is a pretty good choice with the infield drawn in. Pitch that you can either get the swing and the miss or the little chopper in the infield with. In either case, it should play quite well.
That's line to Dominguez, and double play. He beat Hamilton back to third base, and it's a line drive, 5 unassisted, double play to make it no runs a hit and nobody left, and no score here as Dominguez moves to his right. That leads him right to the bag, and he beats the diving Hamilton on the call like Irwin down. take a look, Ash.
I don't know. We didn't get a great look earlier. Let's see what we see here.
Oh, yeah.
I did get him. Good
did.
call. When I saw from the other angle Hamilton lay out and a hand reaching for the bag, I thought there that he might have gotten the hand in first. But very good call at third base.
Kerwin Danley. There was really no argument. There's strike one to Chris Carter. Chris had 229, has 15 homers. And 40 runs batted in. Over his last 13 games, he's hit 298. Drives this one. And that'll hang up in right center field. Peter Borges coming over for it. And Josh Hamilton moved over more toward center as Borges moved over more toward right. Just a reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in today's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. Peter Borges has a lot of range.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun playing the game as well. Having fun with his teammates.
Know that. J.D. Martinez takes a look at ball one. J.D. last night had 3 hits, 2 singles and a double in 4 at bats. 251 for J.D. 7 homers. He's driven in 30. He had been feeling ill on Thursday, the off day. Didn't really eat anything. 2 balls, no strikes. That was his second 3-hit game of the season last night. Joe Blanton was drafted by Oakland in the first round in 2002. Fell back 2-1, and then traded to the Phillies in 2008 on a multi-player deal. A very talented Philadelphia pitching staff until the middle of last year. He was traded to Los Angeles, the Dodgers. That's tap foul. 2 balls, 2 strikes. With Oakland, his biggest year was a 16-12 season in 2006 in terms of victories. He was up over 200 innings in 2007, 230 innings, going 14-10 that year. So 84 and 85 lifetime. The Angels lost to each of Blanton's first 8 starts this year. That set a club record for them. He played in the All-Star Futures game here in the 04 season before the All-Star game. But finally the Angels got a win in his 9th start, but he got a no decision. And at that point he was 0-7. Right now he's 1-10, but he's had several good starts and just has not been rewarded with wins in those.
It's been the month of June where there's been a pretty nice turnaround in terms of what the opposition hitters have been doing against him. Numbers early on in the season, as you were talking about earlier, is not good at all.
That's in the air. J.D. Martinez to left field, and at the base of the wall, Trout, and Trout has it without having to leap. 2 outs.
Take a look at these numbers, and you can see in April batting average against 379. It has slid till June, where it's down to 221. He would be very happy with that number throughout the course of the year. The strikeouts are up, so apparently something's feeling better. Something's clicking for Blanton.
Brett Wallace has looked to be an improved hitter since returning to the Astros from Oklahoma City. And Brett last night, as he takes ball one there, was in the number 2 spot, and he went 1 for 4. Shot a nice single through the left side in the 8th inning. So the batting average isn't much, 111, but you have to remember where he was when he went down. He's come back and he's had a hit in all 3 games since returning to the Astros. 1-1.
Looks like a totally different hitter than the one we saw, and the one we saw early on in the season. Actually, it was so bad you'd have a hard time calling him a hitter at that time, and I think he would acknowledge that. But he's straightened it out, and looks like he's in a much better position now.
Bo Porter was asked about that today, and he was raving about him. All the work he's done. He fouls that, and he's very much in the mix at first base. DH.
Watching Wallace take some batting practice today, and that doesn't tell you a whole lot, but it was very impressive with long balls.
Blanton gets a swing and a miss, and strikeout number 2 makes it 6 up, 6 down for him through the first 2 in a scoreless affair at Minute Maid Park.
In-game live to enhance your Astros experience via computer, smartphone, or tablet. Get in-depth stats and join the social buzz. In-game live only on csnhouston.com, guys.
Thanks, Julia. No score here. Inning number 3 arrives for Jordan Lyles. Peter Borges is the first man he's facing here. And a glittering batting average for the number 9 hitter. Fouls it back, strike 1. 328 for Borges, 3 homers, 10 runs batted in. He's been hurt part of the time this year. But those numbers are very solid for his playing time. He has a 383 on base average. So here he is, the number 9 guy, but leading off an inning. And he has the type of numbers who are really strong for a guy leading off an inning. 0-2 as Lyles dropped the big hammer on him. Borges is from Park Ridge, Illinois. He was a 10th round pick in the 05 draft by the Angels. Here's an old quote from Peter Borges from earlier this season.
It's too young to have an old quote, Ronnie.
We're going to be in the playoffs. I guarantee you that, because we have a great team.
Okay. Yeah, how many times has that been dropped through the years?
Struck him out. Oh, that curveball looks solid.
Yeah, that curveball will be dropped a few more times as well. This is a tremendous hook that Jordan Lyles has. And that curveball not going to get hit a whole lot. And look how much it's improved in the last 3 seasons. 296 back in 11. And then really tightening up last year. How about this year? Down to 157, the opponent's batting average against. Slugging, clearly that follows suit as well. The strikeouts up now for Jordan. He can spot the fastball and drop that curveball seemingly at will.
Ball 1 to Ibar. He grounded out to Jose Altuve. Ibar chops one over Lyles, and that trickles out, and it's going to be a hit. Altuve attempted a barehanded play, but Ibar is able to reach it. A lucky kind of hit, but when contact is made, sometimes good things can happen for the batter, and it did for Ibar. He would probably say, no, that's not luck at all.
I was trying to chop this one in the infield and use my speed. Got good wheels, and we've been talking about it. I need to use those wheels. Yeah, I wonder, had Altuve taken that glove in hand at the same time, might he have had a play?
Not sure. Ibar's aboard. Trout's the batter. Trout reached on the error by the shortstop, Elmore. Lyles delivers, and it's strike 1 for Jordan. Jordan's 22 years old. He's from Hartsville, South Carolina. He was 5-12 for the Astros last year with a 5.09 ERA. It's a little squibber to third. That will trickle foul. And it's 0-2. And the way Trout runs, that would have been a hit had it stayed fair. So this could be one of those wacky type innings had it stayed fair.
With Trout and Borges going down the line, you better charge that ball. It might be a double.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's insane the speed these two guys have for the Angels.
That's world-class speed. Trout is absolutely chiseled, isn't he?
He looks like the football player. You just don't find many thick-necked, thick-legged, speedy guys playing in this game today.
That's right. It's 1-2. Well, remember back in the day, Mickey Mantle had that bearing.
Yep. That's exactly who comes to mind. Only Trout's bigger. I mentioned Bo Jackson the other night.
Yeah, it's another good comparison. Runner was going and it's fouled.
And I would imagine, given the opportunity, Mike Trout could have been a heck of a football player as well. Has that kind of speed that just sets him apart.
And of course, you know, some guys come to mind who were absolutely like Adonis type players. They could really fill out a uniform. They had the bulging muscles, but they really couldn't play.
There's no way to talk about me, Brownie. Do anything for you, pal.
Speaking of guys with bulging biceps, good to see Cheo Cruz here today. He always kept himself in top shape, didn't he?
I had to roll up his sleeves today so the fans could take a look at his guns.
Line and caught by Elmore. Oop, little stumble and throw to first. It goes wild and it kicks back, but Wallace will not be able to make a play at second on Ibar. Trout lined out and Elmore stumbled a little bit. Throwing to first, that threw off the throw, and he gets his second error of the day.
You know, when you take a look at this, and you mention the stumble, it's absolutely there. But I felt like the stumble was there because it was kind of a casually handled play. Rather than really setting up the feet in a great position and firing over the top. It's kind of a casual effort, and a lot of times those casual efforts don't work out all that well.
And now Lyles has a runner at second. And Albert Pujols is the batter. Albert drew a walk in the first inning. That's ball one.
But Jordan Lyles continues to see the shoddy D behind him.
Sometimes there's one pitcher on a staff. All these things seem to come to roost against that one guy most of the time when he starts. One ball, one strike. There's usually one kind of tough luck guy on a staff, right?
I think by the end of just about every season, you'll find one guy you can point to and say, well, it was a tough year. He actually pitched much better than the numbers. And you always hate to hear all that kind of stuff. But here, at least for a couple of straight games, Jordan Lyles has not been treated well by the defense.
That's right. A couple of games. You really couldn't put him in that department right now. Let's take a look at some things that have been developing lately. Brandon Barnes has been developing. Ronnie Cedeno with a good catch.
I would say Bud Norris last night would say the defense was pretty good behind him until a play like this shows up. Ronnie Cedeno got involved a couple of times. This time a poor decision. The other time, I don't know if it was a poor decision or just poor execution.
In the air to center field. Barnes waiting for this one. And Lyles works around another error. It's no runs, one hit. One error, one left. No score.
brought to you by the MD Anderson organization, making cancer history. June 29th of 1941, Joe DiMaggio ties George Sisler's American League consecutive game hit streak. That's a record with a single in the first game of a day-night doubleheader. In the second game, he breaks the record with a seventh-inning single off Washington's Walt Masterson. Joltin' Joe would go on to hit in 56 consecutive games. I don't want to see every one of those because that seems impossible.
Doesn't it, though? Mad Dominguez looks at ball one.
Then what was the figure after he had it stopped that he continued with?
Oh, I think there were another 17 or 18 after that.
I believe that's the case.
236 for Matt. He hits a bullet, but there are the soft hands of Ibar. Turns it into out number one, and that's 7 straight for Blanton. Joe D. So smooth. The saying was actually he never had to dive for a baseball because he was always in position to stay upright and make the catch.
Well, that's an intriguing notion. I don't know if maybe players of that decade or that period of time got maybe glamorized a bit too much. Because I think even with the greatest of speed today, you'll see guys lay out just to make the extra play. But Joe apparently was rather good. Yogi Berra used to say he was the best he saw.
Now here's Mark Krause, and there's strike one to Mark.
Of course, I had a chance to meet Mickey Mantle, and I told Mickey what Yogi had said, and Mickey kind of jumped at that.
Really?
That's what he said.
When did you meet the Mick?
Well, it was when he was having the book tour.
Okay.
Coming through Houston, I want to say 1991, 2, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Just prior to his death, and yeah, I happened to mention that and wanted to see his reaction, and wouldn't say he freaked, but I would say he was a bit concerned. Yogi said that.
1-2. Happy 10th wedding anniversary to Mike and Marie Hudis of Virginia, and a happy birthday to Carl Larkin of Maryland. They're Astros fans. 2-2. Let's see what we have here. Joe DiMaggio, 317 and 1344. The first 11 seasons, Albert Pujols is in that group. 300 homers, 1,200 runs batted in. Jeff Bagwell included.
What does that feel like to have your name listed among those names?
You're asking me?
Well, I thought you were the only guy that could sufficiently reply here.
Oh.
Because I know I couldn't.
Well,
Jeff Bagwell, and then you start talking Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle and Joe DiMaggio. Wow.
it's a line shot, and it's caught by Trumbo. That's a bullet off the bat of Krause. That's 8 straight for Blanton. The Angels are getting these little top bleeders, and the Astros are lining into outs.
Not good at bat, and nice to see some of these new left-handed bats on the club get some good swings in. Obviously, these guys could be quite valuable.
Brandon Barnes at 254 with 3 homers, has 17 runs batted in. That's a foul tip, strike one for Brandon. We're looking for a turnaround from recent results. 2 for 28. It snowballs 2 strikes. Last night he was 0 for 3. Blanton is going right after the Astros and has thrown 34 pitches so far. 2 2/3. That's a nice quick pace. In the air, and the first sacker goes for it. Trumbo to make it 9 straight, retired by Blanton. Perfect through 3. No score.
search or use sports team Astros baseball can create an experience your group is sure to remember. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com to enjoy special pricing and great benefits by reserving your group or suite today, guys.
Julia went up to see Bobby Dynamite before the game in the big train.
I went way up there.
Wow, that is impressive.
He's scared of heights. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I could believe that. A lot of people are.
He's just gotten used to it over the years.
Julia, did you remove the high heels before going up there?
I didn't wear high heels. I dressed appropriately, knowing I was heading up there.
Thank goodness.
Were you wearing a tether, or were you anchored to something?
No.
Okay.
It's actually not too bad once you get up there.
Did you look down?
I did not. I looked out.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
2-0 to Mark Trumbo. Famous locomotive tying in with the old train station, Union Station. 2 balls, 1 strike to Mark Trumbo, to be followed by Kendrick and Hamilton here in the 4th inning. Angels have 2 hits, a double by Hamilton, a single by Ibar. The Astros do not have a base runner against Joe Blanton. And the curve comes in for a strike. 2-2.
Changeup and curveball for called strikes. Well, it's a lethal combination when he's able to throw those for strikes.
It sure is. He seems to be much more confident in the off-speed stuff this year. And that would be normal developmental phase for a pitcher. 3-2.
Baseball at 95. A little above his norm. Nowhere near his norm in location.
Jordan Lyles has 11 major league wins, 22 losses, a 4.88 ERA. But trying to make it a 5-2 start to the 2013 season. Foul back.
I always hate to get too far ahead of myself anyway in evaluating a guy, but from what I have seen of Jordan Lyles, my eyes just think he's got a chance to be really good. He's still a kid. He's 22.
Yeah. Well, you have plenty of company with that thought. There are many who really value him as a pitcher. He seems to have gotten so much better this year. Ground ball hit into center field. Trumbo's aboard with hit number 3 for the Angels.
Yeah, I think there's such an easy tendency to say, as you look ahead to Mark Appel, boy, the guy's going to be amazing, and he very well may be, and we certainly all hope so. But you got a guy here that is quite amazing on that path and way ahead on the path when you compare ages.
Howie Kendrick grounded out to second, comes around for the second time. Well, people are projecting that rotation, including both Jordan Lyles and Mark Appel. Mark Appel's in Florida right now. He hasn't picked up a baseball in about 3 weeks until a few days ago. So it'll take him some time to go through a sort of a spring training type of phase and get ready to pitch competitively.
Might the name Mike Foltynewicz be on that select group of names you're talking about? How about Jared Cosart?
Yeah, I think they would all be there in terms of possibilities for the projected rotation in a few years. Could be quite a group. Maybe Brady Rogers. Throw goes over first.
What is it, David Martinez?
Yeah, David Martinez would be another one. Jake Buchanan is another possibility, and there are going to be some others we'll leave out. Oh, that hit him on the helmet, it appeared. Let's see. Yeah. Did it hit the bat? No, hit his helmet. Looking out at Lyles.
Yeah, I think this hits right on the helmet. Yeah, and Howie Kendrick is really fortunate this didn't catch him right in the face. I would imagine from just about anywhere here in the stadium that could have appeared to have hit the bat, but that was all helmet.
Looks as if Bo Porter was questioning, did he offer at the ball, try to bunt at it?
Well, that's a good question, because if the bat stays out there, it doesn't matter if that ball hits you in the helmet or any other place on your body. If you're offering to try to hit it, that's another story. That's a strike. But I would say he was in the retraction mode and just simply trying to get out of the way.
Looked that way. So he's beaned. He's hit by the pitch. And it's runners at first and second, nobody out now. A challenge for Lyles facing Josh Hamilton. Hamilton doubled off the left field wall in the second inning.
There was a moment there where Howie Kendrick appeared to be acknowledging that he's fine to somebody, and I couldn't tell if that was to Jordan Lyles himself.
Okay. Yeah, he looked out at Lyles. Well, sometimes a pitcher will yell at the hitter when he realizes the pitch has gotten away from him and it's going to be headed for a bad spot. That's 1-0.
His first pitch on Hamilton had a chance of drilling him.
Breaking ball comes in high, and now it's 2-0 to Hamilton. Incidentally, last night, you might remember if you were watching the game, Hank Conger failed to catch a pop-up and was charged with an error over in front of the Astros bench on a ball in the 6th inning hit by Chris Carter. It's 3-0, and we didn't know if somebody else had called "I've got it," and we're hearing today, and it was on Twitter last night, apparently someone on the Astros bench called "I got it," and Hank Conger let the ball drop thinking it was Mark Trumbull, the first baseman, who had called "I got it," and the ball was not caught. That's a strike. That makes it 3-1. So here's the play. Trumbull came over, but he wasn't that close to Conger, and Conger just stopped, and the ball was very catchable. But as it turned out, according to the story, he thought that somebody else had called for it. Well, someone on the Astros bench did call "I got it," or something to that effect. Bo Porter called Mike Scioscia after the game and apologized for not exercising good sportsmanship for whoever made that call on the Astros bench. Hamilton backs away. And then we had this discussion when we heard that before the game. Well, is that bad sportsmanship, or is that what you should expect in Major League Baseball?
You know, it's not one I have an instant reaction to. I have thought back through my years, did I ever hear anybody on the bench hollering that sort of thing? I probably did, on both sides, mine and the other, and yet I would agree that after a play watching Alex Rodriguez involved about 5 years ago with the Blue Jays, and he hollered at third baseman, "I've got it," or something to that effect, third baseman backed away, it was considered very poor etiquette, to say the least. And so I guess from the dugout it would be the same thing. And pretty classy of Bo to be able to call over to Mike Scioscia.
Now Lyles may have been ruffled by the hit batsman on Kendrick. He couldn't find the strike zone except for one pitch to Hamilton, walked him to load the bases with nobody out, and Brocao comes out.
Number one, I'd get a new baseball right here and just kind of regroup. But it looks like Lyles is not trying to make any excuses whatsoever. Kevin Eschenfelder brings the heat with no excuses. Special guests and in-depth analysis on Sports Talk Live every night at 5 p.m. only on Comcast Sportsnet.
Alberto Callaspo is the batter. Bases loaded, nobody out. Double play depth for Elmore, Altuve. And there is ball one. So Lyles struggling with his control here in the 4th inning. Trumbo singled, then Kendrick hit by a pitch. Hamilton walked. He missed, and it's 2-0.
It's a pitch you might get a call on if you're throwing strike after strike.
Tomorrow it'll be a 1-10 start for Lucas Harrell and C.J. Wilson. Swing there makes it 2-1 to Callaspo.
That wasn't the best of swings on a 2-0 fastball.
No, it really wasn't.
Looked like a guy waving at a pitch that really sinks, or maybe a changeup. Just way in front.
Yeah, sure looked as if he was fooled by it. And now 3 balls, 1 strike.
There was the 2-1 changeup.
Chris Ionetta's on deck. Angels are 5th in runs scored in the American League. 3-1 pitch is fouled away, and it's full count on Callaspo. This was Jordan's 7th start at home this season. He's 3-1 in this ballpark with a 4.24 ERA this year. Barnes shading to left center. Callaspo chops one off the plate, and it goes foul. A real late swing there. And Dino Ebel came up with a play at third.
Can't plan for the hopper back to the mound, but you'd sure love to get one of those right here.
Little 1-2-3 double play action.
It is a gem when you can get it.
Little chopper rolls foul and hits the bat in foul territory. And it stays 3-2. Scioscia's Angels trying to regroup and get back in the race. 10 games out behind Texas. Oakland's only a half game out right now.
Going to take quite a charge by the Angels to get back in that race, but with some of the talent they have on the club, if it starts to come alive, you could see them pulling it off.
Line shot into center field. That'll score Trumbo. Kendrick coming in behind him. And it's 2-0 Angels on the single by Callaspo. That gives him 30 runs batted in. Hamilton to second on the hit by Callaspo.
Well, not a pretty inning to this point. Little leadoff single leads to the hit batter and a walk. And Callaspo on the 3-2 just keeps hacking away and shoots one up the middle.
Now 2 runs on 4 hits for the Halos. Chris Ionetta steps up. He lined into a 5 unassisted double play in the 2nd inning. And the curveball is not the way Jordan wants it to be here in this inning. There's ball 1. Lyles in his last 8 starts had a 2.36 ERA. In the air, and there's Barnes back into right center field. Waiting for a throw, and here's the tag at second. Hamilton will go as the throw comes into second to third base. 1 out. Incidentally, we were looking at some of the defensive plays and defensive misplays from last night's game. And as we saw those highlights, there was one of those plays involving Barnes making a catch and throw toward third base when Peter Borges was advancing. And Ronnie Cedeno cut off that throw and threw to second and threw wildly. And Bo Porter was asked about that play. And he said, well, really, the throw should have gone to second base to keep the double play in order rather than to third. That's 6 straight batters who have seen ball 1 from Jordan Lyles.
That said, as an outfielder, you throw to your cutoff man. And in that case, the shortstop was the cutoff man. And so, I think if you wound up kind of having that conversation amongst the coaches, what you ultimately would say would be, look, we've got to make sure our cutoff man gets in the right position. That's where the mistake starts.
Okay. Borges looks at it. It's a ball. That makes it 2-0 to him. So Lyles has been falling behind hitters in this inning, and now it's falling behind on the scoreboard 2-0, trying to get the number 9 hitter. It's going to be tough to double him the way he runs. He has bounced into 4 double plays, though, in 129 at bats. That's kind of surprising. 2-1. But a lot of times we just think about a hitter's speed and look at how many double plays he's grounded into. Hey, you could be Herb Washington and hit a one-hopper to shortstop, and you're going to ground into a double play in a major league game, right?
Great name to pull out. Nicely done. Herb Washington, the pinch runner deluxe back in the Oakland A's day.
I don't know if he ever batted in a game.
I don't know if he did.
He didn't. He never batted.
Herb, get your legs loose.
He was strictly a pinch runner.
What about this bat I've got in my hands? Drop it.
Can you imagine that? Charlie Finley signed this track star, Herb Washington, and brought him right up to the Oakland A's. He had no idea what the rules of baseball were.
I wonder if he was given a bat order so he could at least take batting practice with his buddies.
I don't know if he ever did that. It would be interesting. We'll ask Phil Garner about it. You hear the story about Phil Garner?
Oh, I've heard plenty. Which one do you have?
Well, the one when Phil Garner was on the A's and Herb Washington was brought out to the field for his first day in the majors by Charlie Finley, the owner. And he was introducing Herb around to the players. He said, "Herb, what uniform number would you like?" He said, "Well, number 3. He went over to Phil Garner. Charlie Finley said, "Phil, you'll have to give up number 3. I can give it to Herb Washington."
Please.
Yeah. Can you imagine that?
So a guy comes up as a track star his first day there, and he's going to take Phil Garner's jersey number.
He's done nothing. He's never played professional baseball. He's done nothing. And he gets Phil Garner's uniform number.
But he did have the potential to steal a bag.
Yeah. He could do that. He could do that.
I'm going to guess in the end Phil kind of won out on that argument.
Yeah. There was Herb Washington going in as a pinch runner time after time after time.
We got your back, Gar.
And then we got to see what pure speed can do, but then a lack of baseball knowledge can do too.
Yeah, and that can kind of get things fouled up a bit. What do you mean he's allowed to throw over here?
Yeah, and then he's got to pick up the third base coach and all those things he hasn't been schooled to do. That hit him. Borges started to swing the bat, but he was hit by the pitch, and now it's the second hit batsman of the inning, and the bases are loaded again. So a real wild streak here for Jordan Lyles in the 4th. 2 hits, a walk, and 2 hit batters.
Completely atypical for Jordan Lyles. When he has gone through this nice lengthy stretch of solid pitching, it's been about command in the strike zone, but this inning has been anything but.
Right forearm for Borges. That's the 6th hit batsman this season for Lyles. He's in the 67th inning. He's thrown 31 pitches in this inning. Had Dominguez in, Brett Wallace over to talk with him as Borges is being examined anyway at first base.
Borges made a big mistake as a hitter to get the hands moving forward, dragging the bat through and having that fastball run up and in. It's going to get you.
Fredo Griffin, the coach. Now 2-0, bases loaded, 1 out, and it's Eric Ibar batting.
See Borges testing the different movements there with his hand, maybe trying to convince himself as much as anything that everything's okay.
Josh Fields has started warming up for the Astros. Ibar is 1 for 2, 313 with the bases loaded in his career. And it's strike 1 on the curve. A game like this is a real test for a pitcher in Lyles' situation. His mound opponent has been perfect through 3. He's given up 2 hits, a walk, 2 hit batters, and has only 1 out in this inning with 2 runs home. No balls, 2 strikes.
That's a fortunate call.
Mike Trout is on deck with 1 out of the inning. Ibar backs away. Ibar was injured earlier this year when the Astros were in Anaheim. That pitch is way outside, and it's 1-2 for Lyles.
Yeah, if you're going to miss that bat on a 0-2, you might as well just go with your fingers to your mouth. Have him call a ball.
Hamilton's at third. And Callaspo and Borges, the other base runners. And again, not close as it's 2 balls, 2 strikes now to Ibar. And there's Fields warming up. Roqueo hoping for a big turnaround here with Lyles on the mound, and the count 2-2. And there's a shot foul to the Astros dugout, or the Angels dugout rather.
Yeah, he doesn't appear to have command of the fastball, curve, little slider, changeup, everything is off the mark.
Angels have won 4 in a row, and they've all been come from behind wins. It's a shot on the ground into right field, scoring Hamilton. And behind him, Callaspo coming to the plate is cut off by Wallace. He throws to second, gets the out there. And 2 runners home to make it 4-0 Angels. And Ibar is thrown out, trying to stretch it. But Borges going to third. 2-run single for Ibar, giving him 31 runs batted in. The play went from 9-3 to 6 at second base.
Well, an unexpected inning. And it really is set up with basically wildness by Jordan Lyles. Nice to be able to get an out on a play that provides a couple of runs for the opposition. But it's well executed too. Make sure you get the throw where it can be handled, just barely so for the cutoff man.
Now Mike Trout looks at ball 1. Wallace really had to go up and snag that one as his cutoff duties. Trout is 0 for 2. Reached on an error and lined to short. Crushes this one to center field. Barnes backing on it. Barnes with the catch. And the Angels come away with 4 in the 4th inning. On 3 hits, they leave 1, and they lead it 4-0.
against the Tampa Bay Rays. That's at 7:10 p.m. with patriotic postgame fireworks. Then Thursday, the 4th of July, come out for a 1:10 first pitch against the Rays with a special pregame military parade. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS for your tickets.
Two big dates coming up, but Mike Trout has moved now from left field to center field. Peter Borges coming out of the game after being hit by a pitch near the right forearm area. And J.B. Shuck has gone in to play left field. Now here's Joe Blanton with a 4-0 lead. Dealing, and it's strike one to Elmore. Jake has grounded out to third. He hit the first pitch his first time up. Altuve and Castro to follow. Blanton on the slider. Didn't get the call there, and it's 1-1. There's no report yet on the injury on Borges. Tap the shortstop. Ibar with a play, and the tag by Trout for out number 1. That's 10 straight Astros retired by Blanton. Jose Altuve will follow. He struck out in the first inning. Jose has reached base in 86% of his games this year. Last night he was on in 3 of his 4 plate appearances. Has 9 steals in his last 14 games. Trying to get something started here in the 4th against Blanton. Showing bunt, and it's upstairs, ball 1.
Again, I want to point out that the Angels are 2-13 in Blanton starts this year. So this has been an early turnaround for Blanton.
Well, now you know what's going through his mind, perhaps. He's 1-10, but he's been handed a 4-run lead.
Oh dear, what do I do now?
What's that? A 4-run lead? Oh, I can't blow this.
Well, imagine what Bud Norris would feel like with that.
He wouldn't know what that was either.
Christmas morning time.
Blanton became the 3rd pitcher in Angels history to start a season 0-7. That's a strike. That makes it 3-1. But his 6 starts against the Astros in his career, very solid. 2-2 with a 2.74 ERA. Line and fair in the left field corner. Altuve heads for second base, and he becomes the first Houston base runner and picks up a 9-game hitting streak with a double, his 15th of the year.
Don't want to imply that it happens all the time. Far from it, but a lot of times when a guy gets a called strike on a 3-ball count that might be a little borderline, maybe even beyond, as Altuve appeared to get there, he'll come right back with a hit, and it's that thank you, I'm really glad you called that previous pitch a strike time.
Altuve's aboard for Jason Castro. Right wrist contusion forced Peter Borges from the game. Castro popped to 3rd in the first inning.
Is that a chalk kicker there for Altuve?
It might have been a chalk kicker. That's a strike. Chalk's part of the field.
It is that, and not a bad place to hit a ball.
Use the whole field, they say, Ash, including the chalk.
We'll see if he can hit that right field chalk then.
0-2. Wouldn't that be something? Have you seen a guy chalk one down the left field line or right field line?
Yeah, it doesn't stick in my memory. I would imagine it's happened somewhere. Not one that I've seen. Maybe in all the ball games you broadcast, you might have seen one. I think you have an extensive career, is what I'm trying to say.
Are there stats on that?
I remember one time, and I hate to bring up stories about myself. I only bring it up because it was just so goofy. A pinch hitting opportunity in Chicago, freezing day at Wrigley. way back when. Lee Smith on the hill, hard thrower. And I came out of the catacombs trying to swing a bat and get loose. And I told myself I'm going to hit this as far out in front of the plate as I can and yank one off the barrel somewhere into right field. Sure enough, he threw me a fastball. I took that swing and I hit the left field chalk. And it was just one of those moments where you just start cracking up while you're running around the bases. Yeah, that was exactly the way I planned it.
Strikeout number 3. That's good strategy, though. Actually worked for you. Trivia, Astros Trivia is brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. And here's the question coming up. Who holds the modern National League record for longest hitting streak? The modern record.
Well,
not the ancient record.
Well, yeah, I think I know.
I think I saw it.
You were a part of it.
Yeah, I think so. But we'll wait and see if it was Pete Rose. Chris Carter.
You're just giving stuff away.
Well, sorry about that. It might not be right, though. Carter takes strike 1. Carter, he'll fly ball to center.
What was the submariner's name that stopped the streak?
Gene Garber.
There you go, the changeup master.
Yeah, and Larry McWilliams, the lefty, started that game for Atlanta. 44-game hitting streak. This one gets by Iannetta and is off the screen. While Altuve on the wild pitch advances to third base. It's 1-1. We know about Joe DiMaggio's 56-game streak, of course, in the American League, but Rose set the National League mark.
Yeah, not the best of blocking efforts right here.
And now it's 1-1 as Carter will look it over from Blanton. Larry McWilliams started that game. Rose lined out to him in one at bat. Hit an absolute seed up the middle. McWilliams was able to glove it.
Chris Carter has unloaded a couple of times this year against Joe Blanton. And in both cases, just monster bombs, one here at home, one on the road.
He's been a key guy in those 2 losses against the Astros for Blanton this year. Checks his swing there. And it's 2-2 on the Mike Mchlinski call. And Blanton lost to Bud Norris in Houston 3-1. And he lost to, well, Eric Bedard started the game. He lost that one 2-1 in Anaheim. So he's had 2 of those really good starts, but tough luck situations against Houston this year. That's in for a strike. And 3-2. And you know, in those 2 games, Ash, 14 2/3 innings, only 5 runs allowed, no walks, and 17 strikeouts for Joe Blanton, but he's 0-2.
17 strikeouts.
Yeah. He's not been a big strikeout guy this year. 75 and 90 innings coming into this game. 3-2 pitch, ball 4. Carter takes a stroll. That's his 34th walk of the year. Number 1 in the game for Blanton. J.D. Martinez, Socia doesn't look too pleased with that call. J.D. hit a fly ball to left in the 2nd inning.
Yeah, Blanton picked up 11 strikeouts in that most recent start, 3rd of June against the Astros, 8 innings. So yeah, he's had his way in terms of the punch-outs.
J.D. is looking for his first career hit. He's 0-for-7 against Blanton. There's strike 1. Back to that Pete Rose game, though, the one against Atlanta, in Atlanta, that stopped the streak at 44 games. Garber struck him out his last time up. It was a 16-4 Braves win, something like that. And after the game, all these media people had been following Rose from city to city as he broke this National League record. Well, Pete, what did you think of the way he pitched you? He pitched like it was a World Series game. Deep drive to right field. This one's got a shot at getting out of here. Oh, at the wall. At the wall, a leaping catch by Hamilton. And it could have been a 3-run homer, and instead Martinez is retired by Josh Hamilton, 4-0 inning.
players from the American League take on the best in the National League to compete for home field advantage in the World Series. We welcome you back inside the Home Plate Team Store, where they have their 4th of July collection out. But you can also get Deep in the Heart, a book that captures some of the greatest moments in Houston Astros history. Our own Bill Brown worked very hard on it, and some lucky fans even had Brownie sign it, and Ash. You guys had some fun, didn't you?
We had a great time down there, and there's Cheo Cruz, and there's Ash. J.R. Richard was there.
How about Bill Brown? Good-looking man, huh?
Bob Espromonte was there, Ash.
I didn't see Bob.
Mike Acosta, he was down to your right, and you were occupied meeting all those nice people who came out today. We had a good time, didn't we?
A lot of very nice people showing up.
And, thanks to all those guys for coming out today. Now Josh Fields with the score 4-0 comes on in relief of Jordan Lyles. His first pitch is ball 1, and he has a 4.32 ERA with no decisions.
You know, much more so than the previous start by Jordan Lyles in Chicago. I would say today he just didn't have it. And it all came in the 1 inning, the 4th inning. Up until then, he was fine.
Yeah. Pujols hits it off the end of the bad foul, 1-1. Pujols has a walk and a fly ball.
That 4th inning was classic in terms of just not having command of anything, nothing to turn to.
Yeah, he tried different approaches, and it just wasn't working. So for Jordan Lyles, 4 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout, 2 hit batsman, 86 pitches, 49 for strikes. Pujols on the yacker, takes it for a strike from Fields. 1-2 for Josh. Fields in his rookie season, a Rule 5 draft choice from the Boston organization. He has spent a couple of months on the disabled list with a right forearm strain, but has returned to pitch effectively after that. It's a deep drive. No, it's not going to be very deep. Brandon Barnes over in right center. It's just a can of corn, Ash.
Subliminal message with Albert Pujols hitting the baseball.
Isn't that right? You see this big guy and all the home runs he's hit against the Astros, and that ball comes off his bat, and you're thinking, uh-oh.
I remember back in the day, you'd see a ball come off his bat and think, "No, that's not getting out of here," and it would go 10 rows back.
That's out number 1 for Fields. Now Mark Trumbo. Trumbo started the 4-run inning with a single up the middle in the 4th. He's 1 for 2. And Mike Acosta did a great job. We had him on the air last night. And there's strike 1. And that was a nice day down there before the ball game with the fans. Saw Sarah Eckert down there.
She spent a lengthy time interviewing you, as I was able to notice.
I know you were standing right there trying to get to your seat. So thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I just thought I'd horn in and get to hear everything you had to say.
Well, it was the research on Alan Ashby that really had us digging deep into the archives.
I'll bet it did.
No balls, 2 strikes. And that game-winning homer you hit, that walk-off homer in the playoffs.
L.A. Dodgers. Is that 1981? I guess, yes.
Yeah.
Mini playoffs.
Yeah. Bryant Gumbel was right there to interview you.
Yeah, you can't blame the man.
Who could?
Every team that beat us in the 3 postseasons I was able to be a part of went on to win the World Series.
That's right.
Phillies in 80, Dodgers 81, and then of course the Mets in 86.
And we thought maybe the 04 Cardinals would too, but the Boston Red Sox were waiting. Bouncer first base side. Red Wallace has it. Retires Trumbo. 2 outs for Josh Fields. Astros trivia brought to you by your local Toyota dealer. Shows you the modern National League record for the longest hitting streak was set by Pete Rose. 44 games, 1978.
Yeah, I was concerned at the wording, the modern National League. I was concerned that maybe back in 1903 somebody had gone a little longer than that.
Well, I think Willie Keeler actually did go longer than that.
Was he really wee?
He was wee. He was about not French either. He was about what, 5'5", something like that. Strike one to Howie Kendrick, who's 0 for 1. But we don't say we. Jose Altuve.
No, yeah, that's not necessary.
No,
it's a big star.
That's a shot foul. And I remember when the Reds got to New York, that's when Pete broke the modern record. At the time, it was 38 games by Tommy Holmes, who had played for the New York Giants, as memory serves. And Tommy Holmes was on hand to help Pete celebrate the moment. That was a nice touch. So I wonder if Pete Rose would be there if anybody broke his 44 game streak. Now, what do you think?
Would he be allowed in the ballpark?
Well, he would as a fan. And I'm thinking he would be there, Ash.
Well, I'd like to think so.
Yeah. 1 and 2.
But you're saying in official capacity he may not be permitted to do so?
Correct.
Wow. Would you bet on that?
No. Definitely not. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Well, there's a guy who calls a local talk show, and he's obviously got money down in Vegas on these baseball games. So he'll call in the afternoon. He'll give you the predicted score for a game that night, his predicted score for various games in the big leagues. Can you imagine doing that?
I wouldn't have a prayer. Not a clue. How do you figure out what's going to happen in a baseball game?
I have no idea how he does it. 3 and 2.
Well, how well does he fare?
According to him, pretty well.
According to him, huh? So he hits on these 19-10 games that show up like yesterday, Cleveland and the White Sox. Huh?
That was a little crazy.
In game 1 of the doubleheader, I see.
How do you think Hawk Harrelson was doing on that one?
You can put it on the board.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well, right now they're in a 1-1 lockup, Cleveland and the White Sox, and they've played 4. So a very mild day with only 1 ball game and not much scoring for Hawk and Stoney, Steve Stone.
I wonder if Stoney saw that one coming.
Oh, yeah, he can see things coming. Deep drive to right field. Martinez way back. That one sails over his head and into the seats. An opposite field homer for Kendrick. That's number 9 for Howie Kendrick, and it's 5-0 Angels. 38 runs batted in for Kendrick.
Well, that's impressive oppo power. It's kind of a solidly hit ball that carried. Mr. Unheralded for the Angels.
Yeah. Quietly goes about his business. He attacked that pitch and took it out.
Got a pitch to handle. And did what a lot of guys don't do. That's handle it.
Curveball Josh Hamilton takes. There's strike 1. He has a double and a walk and a run scored. Have you seen Josh in that hair commercial? Jumping into the stands to catch a fly ball.
Yeah, I thought it rivaled this catch he made on the Martinez ball to end the bottom of the 4th inning.
J.D. Martinez coming in on the run. He takes care of the Hamilton fly ball. And on the Kendrick homer, it's a 1-run 5th inning and a 5-0 Angel lead.
Faith and Family Night is back Saturday, July 20th. The Astros take on the Mariners at 6:10 with an inspirational post-game concert featuring 10th Avenue North. Your game ticket is also your ticket to the concert. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit astros.com for tickets today, guys.
Thanks, Julia. It's 5-0. The Angels lead it. The Astros come up now in the 5th inning. Brett Wallace to lead it off. He struck out in the 2nd against Joe Blanton. And he floats a breaking pitch up there at 74. And it's strike one. His curveball is a pitch he throws 9% of the time. But the batting average against it is 154.
I would say it's underthrown.
Yeah. And his changeup has been a good pitch. He throws his changeup 28% of the time.
And that pitch is seldom caught.
2 balls and 1 strike. The Astros trailing here 5-0 in the 5th inning. Want to put Blanton into the stretch and make him work hard. He has not had to do that today. He's thrown 58 pitches. 39 have been strikes. Retired the first 10. Wallace hits one foul. It's a 2-ball 2-strike count for Brett. The bottom of the order has typically done a whale of a job against Joe Blanton. The 7, 8, 9 hitters are hitting .328 against him. Number 6 hitter strikes out.
Explain that one.
Can't. That's number 4. Matt Dominguez will be next.
Yeah, I would imagine somebody would say, well, he's just not bearing down when he gets to that part of the order. And who's to say? There's some of the strangest, goofiest stats out there that I typically find if you provide some more time for those stats, let them breathe a little longer, they'll flip back and go the other direction.
All right, like this one on Matt Dominguez. He's hitting .297 at home and .173 on the road.
Yeah, and Chris Carter has the complete flip-flop of that.
Yeah. Carter's hitting .162 at home, but .297 on the road.
Now you can say go figure, or you can say, okay, well, let's take a look at the second half of the season and see how that plays out, or maybe even a follow-up season to it.
Hamilton in right. But if you do that, these guys who are working up all these stats don't have a job.
Well, now I don't want to take anybody out of work, that's for certain, but you know, they make for an intriguing conversation.
Yeah.
But you know what I've laughed at through the years is a guy will be hitting .410 with runners in scoring position and 2 outs, and the writers will talk to him and they'll say, well, I thrive on it. It's what I've always been about. And then you look at the stats the next year and they may turn to 160 in the same scenario. Right. And it's the same guy.
Right.
I just think there's a quirkiness about this game that is unexplainable.
Oh, you're right. Strike one to Krause. Krause lined out to first. Yeah, over time, those batting averages with men in scoring position, according to all the research that's been done, they more greatly are similar to the overall batting average.
Yeah, they'll tend to fall toward what is the norm for that player.
Yeah. In any given season, they might have no correlation whatsoever, might not be anywhere close to batting average. But if a guy has, we'll say, a 10-year career, probably not too far off his overall average. 1 and 2, and we look at postseason statistics, and they're sometimes wildly different from regular season. Well, it's a limited sample. Bouncer first. Trumbo has it for a 1-2-3 fifth for Blanton, and he's cruising along with a 5-0 advantage through 5. Astros baseball on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Now's your chance to go big at Jack in the Box. Try Jack's Big Stack Burger. 2 jumbo beef patties stacked with onion rings, cheese, and pickles. A cooling day out there. Discovery Green. And it's, what, 103 degrees today, Ash?
That looked like a nice place to spend those tough afternoon hours in that heat.
The dog days are here. Alberto Callaspo drove in 2 with a single in the 4th inning. He's 1 for 2.
It's the final game of the first half of the season.
Oh, yeah.
So do we officially start the dog days tomorrow?
We could, because we'll need probably at least 3 dogs per person in order to sleep at night with all the cold weather we're in for around here.
3-dog night, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to utilize that advice tonight.
Nice to have an air-conditioned park on a day like this. Wow, is it sweltering out there. 2-1.
Spent some days in St. Louis playing on that carpet there. In the middle of the summer. Atlanta, Kansas City. Just really tough. Cincinnati, where you spent a good part of your life. Very hot.
Yeah, that artificial turf really made it worse. 2-2. Craig Biggio had heat exhaustion one day in St. Louis with that turf.
It was just tough.
He couldn't see the baseball. They hit him a ground ball. He was playing second base, and he didn't know which of the 3 baseballs he was seeing coming at him that he should try to field.
I never saw him look like that. I saw myself many a time look like that should have been the response.
But a catcher had it worse than anybody with all the equipment on. But he was on the dirt and not that artificial turf. That's in the air to right center field and way back. J.D. Martinez way back toward the bullpen wall. Reaching. Whoa, what a catch by J.D. Martinez. He timed his leap perfectly.
That's getting it done. Tough play up against that screen. JD gets himself there in enough time to be able to make the play. I always want to get there as early as possible. Kind of glides into the last few steps. Callaspo probably thinks he's got a good shot at the dinger. And if not, maybe extra bases.
Iannetta fouls it. There's strike 1. He's 0 for 2. Well, speaking of the heat and players having to deal with that, Jared Parker's been taken out of the game with cramps in his hamstring for Oakland. Strike there makes it 0-2 for Josh Fields on Iannetta.
Well, I don't know about the heat in Oakland these days. I know Southern California and then on across toward Texas, there are just some miserable numbers in terms of temperature to deal with.
Colorado's really hot right now. Foul back. So is Michael Kadire. He now has a 26-game hitting streak. So maybe he'll be the guy to break Pete Rose's record.
He's putting on the approach job.
How would you handicap his chances to do that?
You know, to have a 10-game hitting streak is really tough.
Yeah.
So add 10 more to 26. You got 36. Now you need another, as my math would say, 8, I guess, to get even with that record. And it's just really tough. And then when you start talking 56, it's rather insane. And Joe DiMaggio had, what, a 60-game streak in the minor leagues?
That's right. But the Pirates, well, they're looking good. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
I'd hate to be in a position to try to handicap that team, how they might do the second half. But I sure like what their pitching is doing. They give them a chance to win virtually every game.
They really do. And now Garrett Cole has done exactly that. Yeah.
Yep.
A terrific bullpen for the Pirates. Fields goes up and grabs it. And takes care of out number 2 on Ionetta.
The Astros wrap up their series against the Angels tomorrow with a 1:10 first pitch. Then Evan Longoria and the Tampa Bay Rays come to town for a 4-game series starting July 1st through the 4th of July. Call 1-877-9-ASTROS or visit Astros.com to get your tickets right now.
We're hearing that Longoria is hurt.
Plantar fasciitis, as I understand it.
But they get David Price back, and he'll start Tuesday night. He's had a couple of minor league rehab starts.
Reigning Cy Young Award winner from the American League.
J.B. Shuck, the batter. First time up for him today. And the former Astro takes strike 1. He took over for the injured Peter Borges in the number 9 spot in the order. Shuck at 295 has no homers. He's driven in 19. He's 156 at bats. Started in the game last night. And this one's in the air to left center. Shortstop is out. And the catch is made by Elmore. It's a 1-2-3 6th for Fields. And there they are paddling along 5-0. At Minute Maid Park, and they're hoping to have something thrown to them. Orbit's been active in distributing items to the fans. Orbit put on quite a show during that fireworks display last night. There's strike 1 to Brandon Barnes. He fouled out to the first baseman in the 3rd inning. Just checking up on Michael Kadire. By the way, it's Giants 1, Rockies 1, bottom of the 7th in Colorado. And Kadire, who has extended his hitting streak to 26 games, the longest in baseball this year, is hitting cleanup today for the Rockies. He's 1 for 3 with an RBI. He's hitting .347 this year. But the idea that Michael Kadire could put together a hitting streak to rival the 44-game streak of Pete Rose is one that most people would reject. Usually that kind of a streak requires somebody who's a top of the order hitter getting those extra at bats. That's a shot into left field. Barnes out of the box, making the turn. Shuck throws in, and it's a single for Barnes. Hit number 2 for the Astros.
Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico viewers, listen up. Comcast Sportsnet covers the entire 5-state region And we want your story ideas. Email us your ideas at regionalroundup@comcastsportsnet.com.
Leadoff single by the number 9 hitter Barnes. Brings up Elmore. Elmore has bounced out twice to the left side. Callaspo even with the bag at third. That was hit number 2 for the Astros. Blanton pitches inside and misses for ball 1. In that Giant Rocket game, the 1-1 game in the 7th inning, Matt Cain is pitching well for the Giants, as is Jorge De La Rosa for the Rocks. That's an interesting look at NL West. Had a good race. Elmore puts one foul into the seats. 1 ball, 1 strike. Arizona currently leading San Diego by 2.5. Arizona is the only team above 500 in the NL West right now. Giants at 38-41. They're in 4th place. They've lost 5 in a row. And the rumors have them trying to make a deal. A lot of rumors circulating about trades right now, in fact. It's only June. That's a strike. 1-2. Let's flash back on Jake Elmore.
Jake Elmore, when he came up with the club in Detroit, back when Altuve had lost his grandmother, Elmore did a really nice job. He was kind of one of those players with the bunt single and just everything he was doing looked like that hustler leader type guy. And I think now, as he gets a chance to play a little bit more ideally, he can continue the way he played at that time.
Strikeout number 5 for Blanton.
The changeup is really factoring in on the strikeouts that he's picked up.
A good pitch for him this year. Altuve doubled in the 4th inning after Blanton had set down the first 10 men he faced. Blue Jays lead the Red Sox 2-0 at Fenway. They're in the top of the 7th inning. Jose Bautista hit his 17th home run. Blue Jays are trying to get back to 500 with a win today. That's ball 1. Esmil Rogers has the shutout going for Toronto. Felix DuPont, the starter for the Boston Red Sox. That AL East is something to watch. Boston leading Baltimore by 3.5. The Red Sox injuries are mounting. Throw over to first. Yankees hanging in. They're 5.5 back. They've lost 3 in a row. They've got some names that most people do not recognize in pinstripes. It's cracked to center field. Trout waiting. And handles it for out number 2. Braves lead the Diamondbacks. They're in the bottom of the 5th in Atlanta, and it's 4-2 Atlanta. Freddie Freeman hit his 8th home run. Diamondbacks are in some of these trade rumors, trying to pick up a pitcher.
They've been a good club. I think a lot of people are now starting to talk about them as maybe the favorite in that division.
Jason Castro is 0 for 2, a pop to third and a strikeout. He and his wife Maris busy with that book drive for the Houston Independent School District, part of Castro's Kids, advancing literacy in the community. That's ball 1. Yeah, you know, those Cubs starters. Scott Feldman is one guy who's really in demand. He might be traded somewhere as the Cubs move along their rebuilding project. He's had a very good first half of the year. And Matt Garza is another. Both those guys not under contract beyond this year. And apparently the reason for all these trade talks, and according to those who have really followed this, and they think these deals might be tumbling along pretty soon, is that there aren't going to be a lot of quality pitchers available on the free agent market this winter. You know, so many teams have locked up their players to multi-year deals now. In the air to left field. Shuck is pursuing it. Shuck gets there and makes that grab for out number 3. It's no runs, a hit, and a man stranded. And after 6 now, Blanton and the Angels lead the Astros 5-0.
To the 7th, it's 5-0 Angels, and it's time to introduce our progressive fan of the game. It is Kelly with his 2 daughters. This is Paige and Hannah with us, who happen to be baseball fans, right? Who says it's just a father-son thing? This is a daddy-daughter thing as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We love baseball, and we're out here for my company's company picnic, and just out here enjoying the game, eating all the treats and sweets.
I was going to ask, what are the girls' favorite part?
Ice cream, that's her favorite part.
Awesome. Well, you're doing good, raising some baseball fans there. Here's your progressive fan back. There you go. Brownie, up to you.
Yeah, it's always fun to hear the kids' take on a game. You know, maybe the first or second major league game, and they come home and you talk to them about the game. What was your favorite thing? Oh, the chocolate ice cream, by far.
Yeah, I don't know if it was my favorite part, but I tell you what stuck in my mind as a 9-year-old the first time I saw a major league game was those shiny helmets with the lights coming off of those. That just stuck in a kid's head.
Hector Ambrose comes in. He's 2-4 with a 4.88 ERA. Pitched last night 1/3 of an inning, giving up 1 hit, no runs. Had a walk and a strikeout. Ibar leads it off. Eric is 2 for 3 with 2 runs batted in. You know, you and Bo Porter have that in common. You both saw your first major league game when you were 9. And he said for him it was a life-changing experience to be taken by his little league coach to a game at Yankee Stadium. And I said, well, how so? How was it a life-changing experience? He said, when I left there, I knew that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, I don't know if I thought of it quite that way. I don't know if I had that exact thought, but it became a passion for me. I'll put it that way, and it was what I wanted to do every waking hour. I wanted to look at box scores and watch the games and see how my hero stars did everything they did on the field.
Out into left center field. Here comes Carter for it. Carter on the run.
What sticks in your mind from the first game you saw?
The green grass. Just how green the grass was.
Yeah.
Going in that ballpark.
It's a great sight.
And just, you know, you've played on these fields when you're a kid, and then you go to your first major league game and how well manicured the field is. It's immaculate.
Yeah, I could have been 8 years of age, actually, but it kind of explains maybe the simplistic view that a child might take at a major league event.
Sure does. Mike Trout looks at ball 1. Trout is 0 for 3. And that's what Bo wants to do through his foundation. And he had an organization called Texas Hawkeye Baseball for about 10 years. And it was a similar type of thing. Programs, church, retreats, an academic tutor, going to ball games. That's rocked on a line to left center field. Carter over, and it gets by him and goes to the wall. Here's Trout headed for second base, and he'll cruise in with a double. His 25th double of the year for Trout.
We want to remind you to tune into Chevy Hometown Kids every Saturday morning at 9:30 on CSN. Chevy Hometown Kids, where it's not about the score, but the experience.
Mike Trout now with another extra base hit in this game. Has 44 for extra bases this year. He's on pace to tie the Angels club record of 88, set by Garrett Anderson in 2003. And that's hit number 7. He's aboard for Pujols. Pujols is 0 for 2 with a walk. Trout scored his 200th run last week in his 249th major league game. And that hasn't been done in a long time. Ted Williams, 1940. 1-0 to Pujols.
Who was driving Ted in? Ted?
Probably Ted.
Yeah, when he hit the long ball, it certainly helps in that run scored category.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt the RBIs either. This guy can do everything.
And Trout, so far in the American League, is the only player to hit at least 10 homers and steal at least 15 bases. He is a show. Outside, it's ball 2. It's 2-0. Cardinals 6, Athletics nothing. They've played 7 now in Oakland. And it's quite a day for Adam Wainwright. He's given up 3 hits and no walks, striking out 7 through 7 innings. Jared Parker left that game with cramps in the leg, as we told you earlier. He went 3 2/3. Matt Adams hit his 5th homer. But that was quite a story last night when Bartolo Colon stopped the Cardinals cold. He is ageless.
He's had an intriguing recent path because, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago he came back. He had a doctor from Europe that was helping him, and he was pitching great ball, and then all of a sudden it fell apart, and now he's back.
Is the doctor from Europe back?
I don't know about that.
Fly ball to right field. JD back. Here's the tag by Trout. There's the catch by Martinez. Trout will go to third on out number 2.
Yeah, there may have been some issues there, but he just gets up on the top of the hill, throws fastball after fastball, throws strikes, doesn't walk anybody, and he's been winning baseball games.
He's absolutely amazing. And he looks kind of like Mickey Lolich.
At this stage of Mickey's life.
Yeah. Right now, you're right. That's fun stuff. Trumbo is 1 for 3. Indians 3, White Sox 3. They've played through 5.5. That's strike 1 to Trumbo. The Angels have won 5 straight road games. They're only 3 under 500 away from Angels Stadium. 17-20 on the road. They're a long way back. 10 back of Texas, 9.5 back of Oakland. But still a lot of time to go. However, they're 13-20 in the AL West. So that would have to improve quite a bit if they were to get back in the race. There's a pickup by Castro on that one in the dirt. And Trout is held at third base. It's 1-1. When Trout gets going on the bases, boy, he is just amazing to watch.
We'll give him 2 steps and he's in full speed.
Yeah.
That's the thing I like about Trout. Well, one of the things, Trout and Peter Borges, is they are instantly in full gear.
Little tap. Trout's coming home. Here's the bare hand. Ambry's throwing, and he gets him. So that prevents a run here in the 7th inning on the play by Ambrose. It's no runs, 1 hit, 1 man left at third. At 7th inning stretch time, 5-0 Angels.
Quote of the day, it's from Jose Altuve. He says, "I'm sure he's going to make it. He's having an all-star year, and he's one of the guys that's been consistent all year long. He deserves to be there." Altuve has come out and named Jason Castro. That's who he's talking about, his personal favorite player on the team. Castro continuing to be one of the best catchers in the AL, just not getting the votes he deserves from the fans. Check him out compared to the top 3 vote getters right here. Joe Mauer, obviously up there when it comes to offense and just statistically, he's very good, but Jason Castro, his numbers right there with everyone else's, is WAR 2.3. Just, he's got a case, right, guys?
Oh, he has a strong case, a compelling case, in fact, and hopefully people will pick up on that, cast their ballots. Carter takes, and there's ball 1 in a 5-0 game on 7th inning. Blanton pops it upstairs, and he falls behind him 2-0. Chris took the walk in the 4th inning after he hit a fly ball to center in the 2nd. He's hit those 2 homers off Blanton this year, 1 in each game. And that one misses. 3-0. Yeah, it is a compelling case for Castro. The players are conducting their voting this weekend. Travis Blackley warming up. 3-1. Jose Altuve said he had voted 20 times for Castro. That's a walk. Let's go a little bit. Let's peel back the layers of this and go a little bit deeper, Ash.
What is this, an onion?
It's an onion.
Jason Castro has some numbers that are certainly worthy of consideration. The 11 home runs lead the catchers that you see right there. Of course, Joe Mauer is going to lead in the batting average category. RBIs, pretty comparable other than Matt Wieters picking up a few more, but Wieters has struggled in terms of the batting average. You look at the WAR category, Jason Castro factors in very well. And I think when it's all said and done, Jose Altuve may be right. It may be Jason Castro making the club.
You know, I didn't know that much about WAR, wins above replacement. It's an attempt to put all the elements of playing into one number, right? Offense, defense. But I didn't realize the replacement part, wins above replacement. It's not an average player. It's below average player who's the replacement player. Fly ball to right field. Hamilton backing on it. JD Martinez hits a fly ball that's caught for out number 1. So that's just a way of measuring how much more valuable that particular player, in this case Jason Castro, is than somebody who would be a backup player.
Yeah, that replacement being the guy you'd have to bring up from either AAA or off of your bench to play in that spot. It's subjective. It has to be on the defensive side. There's no way around it. Sometimes I'm not wild about that. Mike Trout last year was rated so high in the WAR category because everybody thought he was the best defensive player in the game. And maybe he was. But I think it's a valuable number. I think you do want to look at all aspects of the game, and I think Jason Castro has been really good.
Foul by Wallace. Yeah, it's a noble attempt to categorize everything into playing in one number. Whether it resonates with each particular person or not, can't say.
I think it has value, is about as far as I can go with WAR. And I think there are times when I might even feel like it has great value. But again, that subjective side makes you wonder a little bit. There's the great catch. Is that Trout last year? And of course, Trout came up with a big one here. This one was huge in game 1 of this series.
Fly ball left field by Wallace. That one's headed for the seats. Opposite field, 2-run homer. Brett Wallace, number 1 of the year with the Astros. After striking out twice, he puts the Astros on the board, and they're down now 5-2. Well, he had a hit through the left side last night. He stung a single. This time he got some lift on it and just took it out to left field.
I think it's probably true that Brett Wallace is on the clock and needs to be able to show what he can do. I think most people who have watched him believe he's got some tools that could be very valuable. I'm not sure he even knew where this baseball went initially off the bat. It went in the seats. Go ahead and jog it out. But yeah, to see him pick up some big hits driving in runs here now since coming back, it just has to be huge in his category.
Number 1 with the Astros, first since September 28, 2012. He hit 9 last year in 229 at-bats. Now Dominguez drives the ball to right field. Hamilton backing on this. Hamilton at the wall, reaching, and Hamilton holds on. A tremendous catch by Hamilton up against the wall in right. He's made 2 fabulous plays in right field. Martinez with 2 men on, back in the 4th.
When you think of Josh Hamilton, you probably think big offense from previous years, but at least here this afternoon, defense has been the key. That's not an easy play at all. That is really going after it. Where's the blonde girl to hold him up so he doesn't have to fall down in the dirt?
Well, that's potentially 2 home run robbing Trout style catches for him in this game.
This ball's definitely out of here, and I think the first one was as well.
It looked that way. So potentially, if you buy into that, he's saved 4 runs in this game, and that's the difference in the ball game.
His WAR is going to be off the charts.
Oh, he's going to WAR. Ball 1 to Krause. Looks at that one, and it's 2-0 with Brandon Barnes on deck.
Yeah, minus just even this catch. You get the Astros right back into a 2-run ball game.
It's in for a strike, and it's 2-1. Back in the 4th inning, 2 outs, 2 on. J.D. Martinez sent one deep to right field, and Hamilton made a leaping catch at the wall on that one. Had that gone out, it would have been 4-3 at the time. And had this one gone out, it would have been a 4th run. If you say that the 4th inning drive would have been a homer. So that's potentially 4 runs saved in the game by Hamilton.
Hope he's not leaving any ink on those walls.
Travis Blackley has been throwing in the bullpen. Krause trying to keep the inning going for Barnes. Way upstairs for Blanton, and it's 3-2, and he's nearing 100 pitches. Beat the Astros last year at Philadelphia 5-1, giving up 1 run in 7 innings. And on a changeup, he strikes out Krause, and that's number 6. Wallace goes oppo for 2 runs in the Astros 7th inning. And the Angels lead it 5-2 after 7. Tomorrow, the Astros and Angels finish this weekend series tomorrow. Astros pregame live starts tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. only on Comcast Sports Net.
Now let's take a look at tomorrow's pitching matchup, brought to you by Chevron. Care for your car. C.J. Wilson, left-hander, goes for the Angels, 7-5, 3.88 the ERA. Lucas Harrell for the Astros, 5-8, 4.84. And that opponent's batting average would tell you quite a bit. Lucas Harrell has had a tougher ride in that regard than has C.J. Wilson.
Well, Lucas looks on as Travis Blackley becomes pitcher number 4 for the Astros. Hector Ambrose in 1 inning, allowed 1 hit, no runs, no walks, no strikeouts. Blackley has no decisions. His ERA is 5.04. Dane De La Rosa's throwing in the Angel bullpen. Eric Bedard and Dallas Keuchel, the 2 lefty starters, side by side. Howie Kendrick homered in the 5th inning. He was hit by a pitch and scored in the 4th. That's strike 1 to Kendrick.
Yeah, this is one of those hit by pitch that probably will leave some memories for Howie Kendrick. And he responds pretty well in a later at bat. Dinger the other way, but you get that fastball that comes right at your face, duck your head and take it off the helmet. You're going to remember that thing.
Elmore short. Wallace on the stretch, 1 out for Blackley.
Throws have not been laser-like today and on the money for Elmore. So maybe just getting that adjustment. Shortstop, tough position to play.
He has played primarily second base this year for Oklahoma City. Now Hamilton's the batter. Hamilton has a double. He's 1 for 2 with a walk. Has scored a run. $26,650 the attendance today at Minute Maid Park. Shift is on. Strike 1 for Hamilton. Hamilton has had quite a defensive impact on this one. Well, we have had some catches in the outfield this series. Last night, Barnes with a couple of gems. Trout's been all over the outfield. Hamilton made a good catch coming in on Castro last night as well. And then today, Hamilton robbing extra bases twice. 1 ball, 1 strike. Martinez in left field and right center rather, up against that bullpen wall.
You know, this ballpark has a tendency to challenge the outfielders anyway. Tricky angles, and
yeah,
it's and for a center fielder, it's go get it time.
Lots of room to roam. Hamilton takes the breaking pitch for a ball. The count runs to 2-1 on Josh. Detroit's at Tampa Bay tonight. That'll be Justin Verlander against Chris Archer. Rays are headed this way. They'll be here Monday night. That'll be the first of a 4-game series, and then the Astros will soon be in St. Petersburg to play them. Hamilton looks at it. It's 3-1 now. Monday night it'll be Dallas Keuchel and Matt Moore. Tuesday night Eric Bedard squares off with David Price, who returns from the disabled list. Wednesday night it's Bud Norris and Roberto Hernandez. Thursday a day game at 1:10, Jordan Lyles versus to be announced. Well, that guy makes every rotation at some point or another. 3-2.
Just hope he doesn't get traded for an amount to be named later.
That's for sure.
An undisclosed amount.
Dane De La Rosa is getting loose. He got the victory last night as the Angels won it 4-2. Hamilton looks at it. It's strike 3 for Blackley. 2 outs. Only the second strikeout for Astros pitching today.
Likely a case of Hamilton selling out for the fastball, didn't get it.
Alberto Callaspo is 1 for 3. 2-run single. Cincinnati plays the Rangers at Arlington, Texas tonight. Cueto's having injury problems for the Reds. Strike to Callaspo. Cubs lost to the Mariners, and the Mariners walk-off win. It came from the rookie catcher Mike Zunino last night. Cueto now has gone onto the disabled list after leaving the game with an injury last night. It's 1 ball, 1 strike. Jeff Samardzija is going for the Cubs tonight against Aaron Harang. The Mets beat the Nationals today 5-1. Dylan G got win number 3 against the Nats. He's 6-7 overall. 1-2.
EY Jr. now part of that Mets club, and they are turning it on with EY in the fold.
What's he doing for them, do you know?
Well, not exactly. I saw him score a run yesterday.
All right. See if he was in there today. He was in there today. He went 1 for 4 and drove in a run. Overall for the season, including his Rockies games, he's hitting .264, .309 on base average.
You would think that would be enough with his speed.
Little dribbler, third base line. Dominguez throws on the run, and the stretch safe. Infield hit for Callaspo.
Well done by Matt Dominguez. You can only say so many times what a fine defensive player he is. He seems to have all aspects figured out well. Gets this ball to come on the glove side, and I think that's the right way to play it, to give yourself the chance time and time again. And he might have gotten his man. Well, to see that again.
It looked close.
Yeah. I think Matt might have gotten him.
It looked that way the first time we saw it.
No, he got there.
No.
Yep, not quite.
That was a good call by Mike Muchlinski, the first base umpire.
Can you have too much Linsky?
No, you can never have too much. Chris Iannetta is 0 for 3. What would that be? A Polish dish?
Looks like it could be.
His ball.
Linsky?
Yeah. They're in the top of the 8th in Minnesota. The Twins lead the Royals 6-2. Trevor Plouffe hit his 6th home run. Phillies and Dodgers play tonight at Dodger Stadium. The former haunts of Alan Ashby.
Still a great place.
It's 2-0. Think the Dodgers can be a factor this year?
I don't know. Roster wise, I thought coming out of the spring that they would have a great shot.
Well, they're only 6 games out of first.
They've come on. Adrian Gonzalez is a terrific player. Just absolutely terrific. Defensively and with the bat.
High to left field, and it's near the foul pole. Let's see if it comes down foul. It is a fair ball. It's a 2-run homer for Iannetta. Chris Iannetta kept it fair and hit home run number 6, giving him 26 runs batted in. Second long ball for the Angels today.
That's kind of a backbreaker after the Astros battle and try to get back in the game.
7-2 now.
Got a pitch to handle and he lashed at it. And no doubt in terms of distance.
Now that was not in question. It was just fair or foul. 7 runs on 9 hits now for the Angels. J.B. Shucks the batter. That's ball 1 to him.
See the baseball and kind of have the Zapruder film there that we're working on.
Yeah. Slow it down frame by frame. It's 1-1. You know your life has been important when your name is a verb.
Yes.
Zapruder did. Barnes is over in left center field for Shuck. One and 2. Blue Jays 2, Red Sox 2, top of the 8th in Boston. Diamondbacks 4, Braves 4, top of the 7th in Atlanta. Atlanta has a 5.5 game lead. Broken bat. Wow, watch out. That's a single. And here's a hustle around first base for Shuck, but that bat is what we were worried about as he singled to right field. Did anybody get hurt as the barrel of that thing went over the Astros dugout and into the stands? Oh, John Maley, the hitting coach.
Wow.
Assistant athletic trainer Rex Jones looking at his right jaw area.
I'm wondering if Altuve was looking at the bat flying toward the Astros dugout because he didn't react on this ball to his left at all. And he very well may have gotten caught watching what we're going to see right now. Barrel into the bat, fly into that Astros dugout. You know, Jose just had one late step and that was it.
Broken bat single, and that bat went flying. It appeared that it went over into the crowd, but evidently not. John Maley got the attention from Rex Jones there. He seems to be all right. Throw goes over. They've got him picked off. Wallace with the run down on Shuck. Elmore gets it back, and Blackley tags him out. Stabs him in the back. Throws the ball down. And it's 2 runs, 3 hits, nobody left. It's 7-2 Angels. Blackley there, then Shuck with a broken bat single, and Blackley picked him off and tagged him out here. Pushed him a little bit.
I don't know what's going on for Travis Blackley right there. He's angry, flips the ball toward the third base line. Obviously not a good inning, but Mike Scioscia's probably thinking, so what's the deal?
Yeah, on that side, they didn't like it.
Yeah. And you can't really blame them. Make your tag. Get done with the play.
A great balk move he has, though. Pick off of Shuck. That really caught him flat-footed.
You know who handled that rundown the best of the infielders was Travis Blackley.
Yeah.
He was the one that actually closed the gap on the backside and had the shot to be able to make a tag.
Sure did. Dane De La Rosa comes in. He's 3-1 with a 3.25 ERA, and he got the victory last night. He went 2/3 of an inning, giving up no hits, no runs.
Good numbers. Opponent's batting average just in that low 230s, and one of the really good arms in this pen for the Angels.
Brendan Barnes, the batter. That's strike one to him. He has a single and 2 trips. Joe Blanton in 7 innings allowed 3 hits, 2 runs. He walked 2, fanned 6. Through 99 pitches. It's 1-1. Blanton has qualified for win number 2 of the year. De La Rosa will try to help him get it. Elmore and Altuve to follow. It's 2 balls and a strike. De La Rosa listed at 6'7" from Torrance, California. He was a 24th round draft choice of the Yankees in 2002. Then he really bounced around. Pitched for 6 different independent teams in 3 different leagues from 05 through 09. Last year had 5 appearances for Tampa Bay. Most of the year he was in AAA Durham, the Durham Bulls.
How's Crash doing these days?
Haven't heard. But during batting practice today, we were mentioning Chris Carter donned the giveaway jersey for the fans last night, the white home jersey. And they put Serrano, somebody wrote Serrano 0-0 on the back of that good. As he was taking his cuts in the cage.
That's good.
Foul back. So there he is, Pedro Serrano, or Chris Carter on the Astros bench. Good-natured guy.
Did he show some of the eccentricities of Mr. Serrano?
No, he didn't do that. And a strikeout for De La Rosa. Takes care of out number 1 here in the 8th. Last night the Angels used De La Rosa, Jepson, and Ernesto Frieri got save number 20 as they beat the Astros 4-2. Jake Elmore is 0 for 3. That's strike 1. You know, the Angels have a 4.31 ERA. Wesley Wright working in the Astros bullpen. Certainly nothing to write home about, and they feel good about the game Jared Weaver had a couple of days ago, beating Detroit. Fouled away. Weaver is 1-4 for them with a 4.15 ERA. He's made 8 starts. He was out with a broken left elbow. Tommy Hanson on the disabled list right now. Jason Vargas is hurt. That one floats outside, and it's a 1-ball, 2-strike count. 2-2 to Jake Elmore from Arizona State.
He intrigued me an awful lot when he came up those few days for Altuve and just played so well. He looked like that spark plug kind of a player.
That's hit to left field by Elmore. Shuck is back. Shuck takes care of out number 2. See what's going on elsewhere. There's Jonathan VR, shortstop at Oklahoma City in 79 games. He's hitting .282 with 8 homers. He's driven in 37. 26 stolen bases for the switch-hitting young shortstop.
Yeah, with that set of numbers coming from the Pacific Coast League, though they're nice numbers, I don't know how they stack up in that league. But defensively, everybody says this guy has all the tools.
Jose Altuve has a double in 3 trips. There's strike 1 to him. A lot of eyes, of course, are on Carlos Correa at Class A Quad Cities. But there are other good shortstops in the organization as well. It's 0-2 from De La Rosa to Altuve. One of those is Nolan Fontana. He's hitting in the 270s at Lancaster, which is not considered to be a very good average in the California League. But he's the type player who walks a lot too, so batting average does not tell the story of Nolan Fontana. At strike 3, De La Rosa buzzes through the Astros in the 8th inning in 1-2-3 fashion. We move to the 9th and it's 7-2 Halos.
The 9th. Swing for the fences with the new Home Run Derby mobile game from MLB.com, available on iPhone and iPad. Download free today. You're watching a little bit of Miguel Cabrera. He hits a few home runs. He was 4 for 4 against the Rays last night. His first 2 hits out of the park. 24 homers, 81 RBI for this guy as of yesterday. That's at the halfway point, guys.
That is quite something. How can a guy be as good as he was last year and then improve? He's done it so far through 1/2. Through 8 innings, the Astros pitchers have thrown 147 pitches, and the Angels pitchers have thrown 147 pitches.
So was Cabrera guilty of setting the bar low last year?
Boy, you wouldn't think so, would you? And had a Triple Crown winner since '67.
Guy's out of control.
Garrett Richards warming up as Wesley Wright takes over. He's 0-2 with a 4.55 ERA. And he faces Eric Ibar. Ibar's 2 for 4, 2 runs batted in. Ibar looks at ball 1. Blackley in 1 inning allowed 3 hits, 2 runs with no walks. Had 1 strikeout.
Yeah, 1 year ago, Miguel Cabrera, in winning the Triple Crown, put up some great numbers, but numbers that are attainable right now easily. 44 dingers, 139 RBIs and a .330 batting average. He is swarming those numbers.
And then there's Chris Davis.
What?
About to be behind third. Long throw for Dominguez and the stretch by Wallace. They get Ibar, and that's out number 1 as we look at Cabrera.
He just makes it look easy. Sometimes the ball comes off his bat and you think, well, okay, it might get the first 5 rows. He'll put it beyond that easily. Well, that's the second one he hits yesterday. I don't know if we've got it here, but maybe not. Yeah, here it is. I mean, he launches it back where other guys don't hit him unless they're just crushing away. Just easy swing.
Isn't it, though? Amazing to watch. Ball 1 to Mike Trout. Trout is 1 for 4, a double.
That's the thing with Miguel Cabrera. That swing is so in control that he's able to hit the numbers batting average wise that he puts up.
1 and 1.
377
Boy,
to start the day.
that is just crazy. He doesn't get leg hits either.
No, he does not. Now, he's had some struggles that I've seen lately defensively, but generally speaking, not too bad down there.
He made an unbelievable play against the Astros here.
He did. Diving to his left.
He threw from the seat of his pants and made the play. Wesley Wright throws, and it's ball 3, 3-1 for West. West struck out Matt Carpenter of St. Louis in the 7th inning on Wednesday. The only man he faced. He's second on the club in appearances. This is number 37. Chop foul, third base side by Trout. 3-2 now. So for the guys in the bullpen, the appearances really have been mounting. Wesley made 77 last year, and he's roughly on that similar pace this season. He appeared 71 times in 08, his rookie season. Foul ball keeps Trout alive at 3-2. For Joe Blanton, who came into this game 1-10 with a 5.26 ERA. Chance to shrug off those 10 losses and be rewarded for some good work. And he hasn't always been rewarded this season. Angels have lost 13 of a pitcher's first 15 starts in a season only one other time in history. John Farrell in '93. That's a 1-out walk.
Pretty good pitch right there by Wright. John Farrell has weathered the storm. He's become quite a major league manager.
Sure has. And he's getting credit for the improvement of some of the Red Sox starting pitchers who were there when he was their pitching coach, now coming back as the manager.
That was the supposition, that when the Red Sox brought him back, that he could straighten that pitching staff out that was a disaster last year.
Albert Pujols is 0 for 3 with a walk. There's strike 1. And Clay Buchholz, who's now been bothered by some injuries, is one of those guys who's been terrific so far this year, who was there when Farrell was pitching coach. John Lester's a lot better also. Only other Angels pitchers to lose 10 of their first 11 in a season were Ken McBride in '64, Ricky Clark in '68, and Jim Abbott in '96. Fouled away. Well, we still have half a season to go. This is game number 81 for both of these teams.
What a great story for Jim Abbott. Was it a no-hitter or a perfect game in his case?
I think it was a no-hitter.
I believe so. But phenomenal to see what he was able to do with one hand.
Yeah, he was quite an inspiration for a lot of people. Open bat fly ball to left. Carter waiting for it. That's an out. 2 down. Albert just picked up the bat and carried it with him.
Yeah, for the moment, this is not the Albert Pujols that everybody has grown accustomed to through the years. And I say for the moment because you never know when a guy like this might put it all back together again.
The Angels certainly have a lot riding on that Pujols-Hamilton combo. Mark Trumbo's 1 for 4.
This is another guy whose numbers are down right now. Younger player, doesn't have the track record, but the record he has been a good one.
Hot shot past a diving Elmore into left field. A single for Trumbo, his second hit of the game. Trout to second base. That's Howie Kendrick. Kendrick homered in the 5th inning. He's 1 for 3. He was beamed by that pitch in the 4th inning. He was around to bunt, and the pitch hit him on the batting helmet. And then he rebounded to homer in the 5th.
Yeah, considering that he never turned away from that fastball coming right to his face, that his last reaction was to dip his head downward, just really saved himself.
That's a scary moment. Kendrick takes ball 1. The Astros into a pretty challenging portion of their schedule here. Strike makes it 1-1. A lot of it in baseball, as you well know, Ash, is when a team happens to play another team. Is that team hot at the time?
Yep. That's a huge part of it. I think when you look at what teams do against one and another, you'll find some oddities. I think for just about every club across the board. You'll see the same thing for individual players, great players and players that are not so great.
Well, the Angels have won 10 of 15. And the Astros had gone through a good stretch, but now, after splitting the 2 games with the Cardinals, they are going to need a big turnaround to avoid losing 2 straight to the Angels here. In tight, 2-2. And then they have 4 with Tampa Bay coming up. That will complete the homestand. Then the road trip takes them to Arlington, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, and St. Petersburg, Florida. 3 tough destinations.
Strap them on good and tight on that one.
Yeah. Last homestand, the Astros were 5-2 against Milwaukee and the White Sox. Bouncer to second, Altuve in. On over to Wallace for the out to end the top of the 9th. No runs, a hit, 2 men stranded. We go to the bottom of the 9th. Angels 7, Astros 2. on Comcast Sportsnet is brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. And by Progressive. Visit progressive.com today. Going to the bottom of the ninth inning, you see Castro, Carter right there, and then J.D. Martinez, 2 up third in the bottom of the ninth. Angels lead at 7-2 over the Astros. Big edge in hits, 11-3 for the Halos. Garrett Richards comes out of the bullpen. He's 2-4. His ERA is 5.40.
Just 25 years of age. Worked in 27 games prior to this one. And he'll get his work in when he does get out there. 55 innings put up. He's also started 4 games, so he's been a swing man for Mike Scioscia.
One of those starts came when the Astros were in Anaheim back on April 13th. Gave up 4 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Got a no decision. Castro leads it off. Castro's 0 for 3. Richards delivers, and it is strike 1 at 96.
And Richards has allowed runs in 3 consecutive outings now, and in the most recent 3 runs coming in that one in 2 1/3 innings. So he's not a hot pitcher.
Swinging a breaking ball by Castro that puts him behind 0-2 in the count. Dane De La Rosa in 1 inning allowed no hits, no runs. He had no walks and struck out 2.
Of course, as soon as you say a guy's not a hot pitcher, he drops an unhittable curveball.
Yeah. Garrett's 25 years old, from Riverside, California, a first-round pick in 2009. He strikes out Castro for out number 1. Strikeout number 9 for the Angels.
Stay tuned for Postgame Live presented by MD Anderson, making cancer history.
Chris Carter's the batter. He hit a fly ball to center in the 2nd inning, walked in the 4th and 7th, scored in the 7th inning on the 2-run homer by Brett Wallace to left field. That's a strike. Mike Trout moved several steps to his left before that pitch. Now he's moving back the other way. Just keeping it interesting.
Confusion tactic.
Off the plate at 96. That looked like it might be a cutter there, Ash.
Did have that little cut action. Threw a fastball to get Castro at 97. So he's not lacking in the petrol.
Got to gas up for July 4th weekend. It's cracked on a line to left field. Headed for the scoreboard wall. It kicks out to J.B. Shuck. Carter will be held to a long single. That throw was right near the bag. A good decision to hold up with a 1-out hit to left.
The Astros with 9 strikeouts today. Chris Carter does not own a one of them, and he's reached base 3 times. Gets a pitch in that crush me zone, and he does. He just centers up this baseball.
Shuck played it well.
It's a good turn in anticipation of going for 2.
Sure is. Now he takes off. They're not holding him, not making a play on him, and there's strike 1 on J.D. Martinez. So defensive indifference from Chris Carter.
Then you'll so often see a ground ball that would be a double play that is not a double play. I just think you can bring a first baseman up 2 steps and take away that running game.
It's 1-1. Blue Jays 5, Red Sox 2, top of the 9th inning. This is only the 3rd at bat for an Astro with a runner in scoring position today. Brett Wallace is on deck. Trout backs on it. Making the catch. Carter will go from second to third on a long out, number 2. And that means Wallace bats. The runner at third and 2 outs here in the bottom of the 9th. Wallace hit a 2-run homer to left in the 7th inning. Just as we promised earlier in the game, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite.
Get that high heat, juice it the other way. And number 1 on the year for Brett. Never hurts to get that one.
After a couple of strikeouts, he went deep. Matt Dominguez is waiting. Way outside, ball 1.
Yeah, I think it's rather pronounced. You can see higher hands for Brett Wallace since coming back, and for whatever reason he seems to feel that gives him a better rhythm.
Puts that one in the seats, and it's a 1-ball, 1-strike count.
Go ahead and drive in another run. Make yourself a run producer.
Oklahoma City got 4 in the 9th in game 1 of a doubleheader, scheduled to be a 7-inning game, and beat Nashville 5-1 to take the opener, and then swept the doubleheader last night. Wallace chases. 1 ball, 2 strikes for Brett. George Springer picked up his first RBI as a Red Hawk. He had a double in that game. And Oklahoma City completed the sweep 6-3 in the nightcap. Wallace swings and misses, striking out. And the Angels have captured the first 2 games of this 3-game series. They've now won 5 in a row. And on the road, they've won 6 straight. Richards gets the final 3 outs. And the final score here is the Angels 7 and the Astros 2.